Welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and today we're going to continue the showcase for the Hunters AD 1492. We're going to pick things up exactly where we left it off in part number 1. If you haven't checked out the entire showcase so far, which is the game unboxing, how to set up video, and part number 1, I'll put the entire showcase up in the top right-hand corner so you can get caught up to where we're at right now. Make sure you check those videos out first before diving into this one. And if you already watched part number 1, it's worth checking out the pinned comment and video description of that video for a handful of FYIs based on some clarifications. Without further ado, we're going to dive right into traveling across this overworld map. As you can see, the Hunter's Mark is currently on this map card right here, M05, and we're going to be moving ourselves over to M06, so let's learn about how we traverse across the map. Now, as you know, we have one revealed map tile currently where our Hunter's Marker is currently situated, and if we want to travel around the overland map, we can go orthogonally or diagonally in any direction. But in this case, because we can see a small plot card sitting on map 06, we certainly want to head in that direction, so we're going to go ahead one space to the east. Now, traveling in any direction is going to take an entire day, so you'll go ahead and update your day marker on the wagon. At the bottom of the wagon board, you'll find the day track running from 1 to 30, and there's also a plus 30 situation here. So, of course, once you actually reach 30 the first time, you go ahead and fill a cube in on this spot to denote that it's 30 and go to 31 all the way to 60. Now, as soon as the Hunter's Mark moves to a new map tile, you're going to go ahead and roll what's known as the travel die. And you'll notice on the die that there are 2 sides which have a flag icon for road events, and the other 4 sides are blank. Let's go ahead and roll the die and find out what happens. Now, of course, if we land the flag, we're going to be doing a road event, so hopefully that pans out for us. And we got it. Now, as you remember from the How to Set Up video, we set up a number of road event decks, but they're split out into 3 decks based on their level. We have level 1 here, 2, and 3. Based on the travel die landing the road event, we're going to be drawing from the level 1 deck, and we're drawing from the bottom of the deck, which if you remember from the How to Set Up video, had the level 1 deck set up with a card called the Beginning placed at the bottom of the deck. The level 1 road event is called the Beginning, as we know, and it states, after some time you see sunlight piercing through the canopy and trees are more sparse. It heralds that you approach the edge of the forest. The mist lifts too, and your mood with it. You can hear distant growls coming from the depths of the woods, but you hope that all dangers are far behind. Invigorated, you head out into the open. Now, we have a test here, and it states the hero with the highest perception tests perception 3. A is if the test is passed, B is if the test is failed. Now, if both of your characters happen to have the exact same perception value, which is not the case here, in my case, Elena definitely is the one that's going to be making this check, but in your case, you might have 2 characters that are exactly equal on perception. If that's the case, you go to the next one up, which is going to be the knowledge stat. So whoever's got the most knowledge, again, if that is a tie, you continue on to the strength. And as you can see for this character, she has a perception of 2, based on the 2 being in the same column as where the marker is. My other character, Wilhelm, has a perception of 0, so it's definitely not going to be him making the roll. Elena's going to be making this roll using this yellow die here. The 6 sides on this die are as follows. There is 1 side with 0, 1 side with 3, 2 sides with 1, and 2 sides with 2. We roll this die and add the stat that the check is after, which in this case is perception, to that roll. So we have 2 going in. Let's see what we get on top of it. We got a 2 that's pretty solid. That ends up being 4, which is above what we need to pass. We need to either meet or exceed the threshold of the test, which we've done. So we're going to go to the successful test option, which is the top one. You stop and carefully look inside a hollow between tree roots resembling a den. A strange, intense smell comes out of it. You approach the hollow and spot a few particular mushrooms. They remind you of something. Aren't they similar to the ones the wise woman living near your village used to dry? It's a good idea to pick them. We get to gain a single mushroom right now. Now, it's worth mentioning before we actually gain the mushroom, which will end up in our equipment for the character, I also want to talk about the save sheet that is included inside the game. There's a pad of them, so you can use these to keep a save state of your game. You can see a number of icons across the bottom for each of the heroes, which represent the different resources in the game that you'll accumulate over time. You can keep track of how many of them you have right here on this sheet, as well as your major stats, morale, and other things that apply to gameplay. And the back of that exact same sheet for your heroes that you're controlling also has a save sheet for your wagon, the days that you've gone through, your equipment, the resources overall, map cards and their positioning, as well as location cards down below here. The game includes a number of different resources, as you've seen. They're broken into 3 major categories: materials, plants, and trophies. Materials are things like diamonds, yarn, saltpeter, leather, steel, and silver. You have plants like mushrooms, root, flower, leaf, stalk, and fruit. You have trophies, everything with a monster on the very front of it, so monster venom, monster egg, monster bone, so on, blood, fur, and also fat, all coming from monsters. Now, what we just gained from being successful off that road event is a mushroom resource. So we take that resource in the form of a token going on the dashboard. So it took us a day to travel to this M06 location, and I've already updated that up on the wagon to day 2. We also just resolved a road event, and at this point in time, the hunter's marker is on M06, so we're going to go ahead and reveal that map tile. The game world continues to open up as we travel, and as you can see, the small plot card has the red arrow icon in the bottom right-hand corner, and as I talked about in part number 1, the second the hunter's marker is in the same space as a small plot card with that icon in red in the bottom right-hand corner, we're going to reveal this small plot card. Finally, you see a tall wooden inn surrounded by a palisade, the long-awaited rest. A bowl of steaming stew and soft mattresses are within your reach. It tells us to resolve quest number 2. We'll find this in the Tome of Quests booklet. You approach the welcoming light of the inn. The gate out front is open and creaks softly in the night's cool wind. Something is amiss. The yard is empty and there isn't a stable hand in sight. As you approach the door of the inn, you abruptly make out muffled screams from within. Blood seeps slowly from under the door and you draw your weapon and kick it in. The corpse of a young woman lies in a pool of blood shining in the light of the hearth. Behind the bar, a group of thugs armed with clubs laugh as they kick at the badly beaten innkeeper trying to crawl away around the corner of the bar. A man in a jaunty beret armed with a crossbow stands over a few patrons huddled on the floor in the corner of the room. He spins in your direction as the door flies open and aims the crossbow squarely at your chest. Helmut, we've got guests. Now, after reading the introduction for the quest, it's always a good idea to take a look at the deployment, quest goal, special rules of this particular page to find exactly what this in quest has for us. Deployment here says 4 bandits are coming in, but as we're playing with 2 players, only 2 bandits will be coming in. Crossbowman will be coming in, and it says here it starts with 2 health for 2 heroes, with 1 health for 3 heroes. So we're going to have 2 health with this crossbowman. The innkeeper here is going to be an ally represented by an unused miniature. And the quest goal, as you can plainly see, is to keep the innkeeper alive and survive with at least 1 conscious hero for 5 rounds. Now, there's some special rules around this one. The innkeeper performs no action and merely hides behind the bar trying to survive. He has no defense and his health equals 4. So that's how much he's got to work with before he gets taken out, and we don't want that to happen. Each enemy who is in range to perform a melee ranged attack in 1 action at the beginning of their turn rolls a d6. If the result is a 1 or a 2, the innkeeper becomes the target of the attack. In any other case, a given enemy attacks the heroes according to the regular rules. We'll keep that special rule in mind as we begin to set up quest number 2 using the Book of Maps. And just like that, we've got the environment laid out. You can see a top-down view of the entire inn here. Now, one thing that's obvious right out of the gates is the black walls. We did not have any walls in the prior quest, and as I mentioned before, line of sight is broken when it crosses going from the center of one area to the center of another area and crossing through any of those black walls. Now, as you take a look across the inn, you're going to notice 2 new icons you haven't seen before. This one right here that looks like a brick wall and shows in multiple locations is known as cover. So if you're inside that space, you'll have cover. We'll talk more about that in a little bit after we get setup done. And also, we have the ability to hide in terrain, and that is going to be this icon with the eye crossed out, and it's in multiple locations as well. And before we go ahead and place our heroes, as we know, we can place them in any location with these icons. We can group them up or keep them separate, however we wish. Good idea to take a look across and see where all the enemies are going to start out. So we're going to have a crossbowman in this area right here. It also has a 2 damage icon next to the 2-player indicator. So we're definitely getting the crossbowman in here. We're going to have one of the bandits in here, and 2 bandits are going to be spawning. So that's one of the locations. And on the opposite side of the inn, we have 3 spawn locations, but only 1 is going to be used for that second bandit. This one right here for 2 characters. So now grab your bandit miniatures and place them where they need to go. You'll also notice a number of jagged lines across the map, and that's because we've got lots of rough terrain to traverse across inside this inn. It's not going to be as easy as simply just walking around. There's things you have to jump over and move through. So rough terrain works quite easily. Essentially, as you cross over rough terrain, those crooked lines or zigzag lines, you are going to immediately end your movement on the opposite side of it once you go over top of one of those lines. But if you start in a space, one that's actually adjacent to the lines, like we started in here at the beginning of our turn and we went to here, that would be a-okay in regular movement. But if we were actually going from here over top of the line, that would be rough movement. And at that point, unless we have some card or gameplay effect that actually minimizes this, your movement would end the second you go over top of that line. And the final bandit miniature, as I mentioned earlier, will start right here. Now let's quickly touch on those icons I mentioned earlier. We have the cover one here and the ability to hide in terrain. So first off, the cover, which is the wall icons, those 3 spaces allow for protection. Essentially, it is a -1 to hit modification to an attack on an individual inside that space. So for instance, if we happen to be inside that space and the bandit was taking a ranged attack against us there, it would have a -1 to hit on its roll, which would be nice, a nice benefit, and that is whether it's a ranged attack or a magic attack from range. And that effect is going to apply like that if the enemies in that space taking advantage of cover or you are as a hero. Now, the other icons across the 3 that have the eye crossed out is a hide, the ability to hide in terrain of the inn. So while a hero is hidden, they cannot be targeted by enemy movement or attacks. The acting hero can only perform this action if 3 conditions are met. The board space with the acting hero features the hide icon, so of course that would be the case, as you can just make sure of that by visually checking the board. The acting hero cannot be the only opponent within line of sight of any enemy. And lastly, the hero cannot be on the same space, of course, or any adjacent space with an enemy. The hero can remain hidden no matter the actions they perform until they attack an enemy. In that case, the moment the acting hero starts performing the attack, they immediately lose their hidden status, which is very thematic and makes obvious sense. The hero also stops being hidden immediately upon entering a space without the hide icon or when they are in the same space as an enemy. So a lot of this is common sense. So based on what I'm seeing from the rules, it appears that cover, the wall icons, can be used by enemies as well as heroes, but the actual ability to hide in terrain or hide in a space is only available to the heroes, which makes sense. And we've got a crossbowman in the bottom left-hand corner of the inn. Now let's go ahead and place the innkeeper, which can be any miniature which isn't currently being used. As I mentioned in the narrative, the innkeeper is trembling behind the bar and only has 4 health. That's going to do it for the enemy positions. Now, technically, based on the rules, you'd go ahead and put your heroes into play first and then the enemies after, but because it's common knowledge as to where the enemies are going to go based on seeing all the iconography on the map itself, I'm placing the actual heroes last because I can visually see where everything is situated and helps me make strategic decisions on how I want to place them. Now, similar to our very first quest, we have a round track in the top right-hand corner of quest number 2. We have to survive all 5 rounds, so we'll go ahead and place the round marker in the first position. For the 2 bandits in play and the 1 crossbowman, we got to get the enemy card, so we've got both of them. You can see the stats across them as well. We're going to talk more about them when we actually get into combat with them very, very soon, but we still need to grab the cards that will do the AI for each of them. You'll see that right underneath of each of their titles. With the enemy decks now in hand that match the artwork on the enemy card, we go ahead and just shuffle these decks. There's 3 cards in each of the decks, but some enemies will have up to 10. I'm going to place both enemy cards on top of the inventories for both the heroes, as we're not really using those sections of the board at the moment, and they'll just be right next to the actual inn for quick reference. Now, an exciting thing that happens for the heroes right now in quest number 2, as we go into it, is these decks are going to bolster. We only had 10 cards going into quest number 1 as part of the setup, but now we get to add the additional 10 cards for a complete 20-card deck for each of them. Here's an up-close look at the 10 cards going in for Wilhelm. You'll see the ST in the bottom right-hand corner to remind you of the cards you should have in your deck by now. A total of 20 cards with the ST value for each of the characters. Here are the cards for Wilhelm one by one, as you can see. Again, some of these will be duplicates, as there's multiples of some of them, and other ones will just be a single copy. Wilhelm's deck is now complete and shuffled, and Elena here has got a number of cards going in, 10 brand new ones into the fold. And again, same similar situation here. Some of these are going to be duplicates of the same card, as you'll see multiples, and then some will be unique. Now it's time to bring our heroes into the inn. I'm going to bring Elena into this position right here, and we're going to have Wilhelm go up a little further north. My strategy going into this is that she's going to be able to help take down the crossbowman, as she can actually make a slinged weapon attack 2 spaces away. So she'll be able to reach this individual, whereas it's going to take quite a bit for Wilhelm to get over there, and also would rather have him try and deal with the bandit over here. So we're going to kind of split up and divide and conquer. Now, one thing to note that you might miss as you go through this is the 2 damage that pertains to the enemy that starts in this space if you have 2 characters under your control. So instead of this crossbowman being 5 health, it's actually 2 less. It's only 3 health. We are now ready to dive into round number 1. We know we need to survive 5 full rounds, or of course wipe out all the enemies that are inside of this map, because that will allow us to get to the 5th round without any issue. But at this point in time inside of round number 1, we're going to drop our cards. But here we go with a quick reminder. Now, in the first part, I mentioned that I went and randomly drew up cards, which I did, but you actually get to select your very first handful of 5 cards in every quest that you play in this game. Don't forget to do this, because the 5 cards you select off the hop can be part of your strategy going into any given quest. So for Elena, I've chosen the following cards. We're going to have First Aid going into this, Crowd Fighting, Lookout, which is great for ranged attack, another Lookout, and another First Aid. The reason I've got these First Aids in here is that, again, going into quest number 2, there was nothing stating that in quest 1 at the very end of it that we get to heal up anything, so I want to have the ability to get my health back up. And here are the 5 cards I'm going with for Wilhelm. We got Assault, Protecting the Group, Jump Attack, Pummel, and finally Quick Blows. Now it's time to determine the order, and the crossbowman has a perception of 2, and the same over here for Elena. So they actually are the same, which means I can choose to either let the crossbowman go first, or I can have her go first. But either way, this individual, Wilhelm, is not going to be going first because he's got no perception whatsoever, and the same with the bandit. So we have 2 that are exactly the same here, and 2 that are the same here. So I'm going to have her go first, then the crossbowman, then we'll go over here to Wilhelm, and then finally to the bandits. Now, as you heard in the special rules section, the innkeeper is going to become a target at times for the attacks from the enemies, and I'll talk about how that works in just a moment, but for now, she's going first, and I'm absolutely going after this crossbowman over here. So I'm going to go ahead and play an action here. This is going to be a ranged attack at 3. We can easily make this, as my sling I'll be using is a range 1 to 2, so we can absolutely go across. This is just rough terrain lines, so we can still see no problem through, although this individual will have cover. And cover is going to impact our to hit roll. When we make our dice roll, it's going to be a -1 to the roll, which is unfortunate. But the other thing we have to contend with is the fact that crossbowman actually does have defense against ranged attacks. This is something we didn't see in the last quest. There was 0 defense on things when I was making attacks, whereas here, for ranged attacks, it's going to have 1, and even against melee attacks, it has 1 defense. So I'm bringing 2 dice into the equation because the sling shows 2 dice on it. We have no modification to hit off the actual weapon we're using in a positive way, but we have the -1 coming from the cover that this crossbowman has, which is a -1. So we're going after 3 or lower, but the -1 will make it 2 or lower to be successful. So let's go ahead and make a roll and see how we do. All right, so as of right now, we have 1 successful hit because we got a 2 or a 1 will be a successful hit. And of course, the ones being critical will explode and we'll have extra dice coming in. This is a complete miss though, so we don't get anything off of that one, but we do get 1 here. We also get the 1 for our agility, which is a total of 2. And looking at the crossbowman's defense, which you know for range attacks is a 1, then that means that we are going to do 1 damage through. But that is not enough for me. I want to push it a little bit further. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do something called a reaction. This is the bottom portion of this card, and it says if you spend a morale, you regain it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually first go ahead and spend a morale after doing that roll. You can spend a morale on any of these 3 things, but you can only spend 1 morale at one time. So the first thing you can do is when performing a test, a hero can spend 1 morale to add 1 to the test result. The decision can be made after rolling the dice, or you can use it when performing an attack after rolling to hit like I just did. A hero can spend 1 morale, which I'm going to do in a second, to increase their strength, agility, or knowledge by 1. And the final one is when performing a move, a hero can spend a morale to increase their move by 1. So I'm doing the second one. We're going to go down in the morale track, which is going to knock us into the negatives, but allow me to get 1 up in agility. Now here's the kicker. The moment I go ahead and do this and move my morale track down to that red area, I am now going to be a -1 off of my major stat attributes, which is going to affect the agility one that I'm actually trying to increase. So you think that this is kind of nulling things out, but I have a reaction card that's going to benefit me right now, and I'm going to use it. It's this one right here. It says at the very bottom, if you spend a morale, you regain it. And it says play on yourself immediately after spending morale. So I spent 1 morale in order to bump up my agility, but the track had me lose an agility, so I used a reaction to bump it back up to regain it into good positive standing, but that still means that right now I get the extra 1 agility bump up, which is awesome, and I'm also not in the red morale anymore. So now I take my 1 success off the die, I take my 1 agility I always had on my stat, and I get an additional 1 thanks to spending that 1 point of morale. That's a total of 3 hits going through, and only 1 defense for the crossbowman, which means 2 damage gets through, and it already has 2 damage based on this right here. So it's got a total of 4 on it. Only 1 more is necessary to take out the crossbowman, as his health is 5. We'll place 2 wounds right next to it. So as you can see, I'm putting everything I have into trying to take down this crossbowman, and that's because it has the ability, as you'll see when it gets into its AI cards, to make attacks from distance, which is certainly a danger to the innkeeper, because if the innkeeper is within range of the crossbowman when it activates, I'm going to roll a d6, and if it's a 1 or 2 result, this thing will not attack the closest hero. It will actually try and attack the innkeeper, and only 4 damage is necessary to take it down. So I really want to focus on taking this guy out. So we've already done 1 action. Let's go ahead with a second one, and I'm going to go with Lookout yet again, but this time I won't be bolstering it in any way, shape, or form. I'll just be going with a basic attack 3. Now, the morale I spent earlier in order to boost things up for my agility by 1 is just a temporary thing for that attack. It doesn't actually move the stat upwards on the track, so don't think you get an instant bump up across your stats because of the fact you use that morale. It's simply just for that attack. So on this one, the attack is going to be a 3. It still has cover, so it's still messing with my dice. It's still going to lower it to a 2 or 1 to be a successful hit, which is going to make things quite tough. So if I actually land this, I'll be quite happy. I need to get at least 1 hit off these 2 dice, and I don't think, I'll just take a quick look at the bottom of my 2 cards here. Nope, neither one of these will help me. Now, does anything over here with Wilhelm actually help me? Because maybe I can actually throw something into the equation that could give me a benefit, and nothing. Ooh, actually, no, I do have something here. I have a reaction that can be thrown in from Wilhelm, and 1 reaction is allowed for every action. And if you have reactions you want to spend between yourself when you're making an attack and potentially a hero that wants to help out, you have to pick one of the reactions. Both of you can't throw something into the equation to help her out in this instance, but he certainly can help her out when she's not doing anything on the reaction side. So he's going to go ahead when the ally's taking a turn, which is her, and he's going to add an additional die into the attack. It says play on your ally at the beginning of their attack. So now, even though this individual is under cover and it's going to mess with all of my dice, dropping them to successes on 2s and 1s, at least I have 3 dice going into the equation now. So let's see how we do. And as you can see, we just barely scraped by. We got ourselves a 2, which is awesome. So we absolutely needed those 3 dice because that just ticked up the odds just a little bit more, just enough to make it pan out for me, which is awesome. So we get the 1 hit here. We have the 1 hit from agility already as a stat, the 1 defense from the crossbowman, so 1 damage going through. This crossbowman now has a total of 5 wounds, and it's been killed before it even has a chance to go after the innkeeper. And you know what makes this even better? It took me 2 actions to do this, and normally the crossbowman would actually get to activate right now, but he's been killed off. So the next person to activate based on perception is going to be Wilhelm. So we're jumping straight to another hero, and he's certainly going to go straight for that bandit. Now, Wilhelm helped out with a reaction card, so he's one card less when he goes into his turn right now. So he's got 4 cards. He's going to use this card right here called Protecting the Group, and this allows him to move or do a parting leap for 1, and then gets to attack. So he's going to move into the space with the bandit, moving diagonal, because you can go orthogonal and diagonal. He's going to move into the space with that bandit and attack it at attack 2. Now, what's awesome about this move is that there's no cover in this space, so no negative to hit modifier against my dice rolls, which will certainly make things a little bit better. But the scary thing about this bandit, as you'll see right off the card, is that for melee attacks against it, this bandit's actually pretty nasty. It has a defense of 2, which is going to make getting through it quite a bit tougher. But I do have a card in hand I'm going to use as a reaction for him in order to help out. It's going to be Jump Attack. Now, jump attack states at the very bottom, +1 die during a melee attack versus a human. And again, a human is denoted by the skull icon, which you can see in the top right-hand corner. So we're going to add another die into the fray, and of course, that will help us out. So we get 1 die for this, and we're also going to come into this with just, let's take a look here at the sword we've got ourselves. Now, this is something worth mentioning that I actually put in the FYI, or the pinned comment of part number 1 that I actually missed, is that this sword right here references the strength value of my character, and the strength value of my character was actually a 2. In part number 1, I treated it as if it was a strength of 1. So this actually has a 2 value just by default, which is pretty awesome. I get this die, which comes from this reaction, but I also get 1 die that comes from this sword. So we're rolling these 2 dice, but I already have banked 2 strength stat hits. So here we go. Let's see what we get on top of that. So basically, I have enough to basically get through the defense. Whatever I get on the dice here, we'll go through that. Let's see how it goes. Oof, not good. So as you can see, the bandits are no joke, and as I used a reaction card as part of that action, I cannot have my other hero try to add a reaction card into the equation to try to reroll dice or do anything else that could try to help out, because I already burnt a reaction during it. The only thing I could do strategy-wise with my other character is potentially have her come over and do attacks against the bandit, because ranged attacks actually are easier to get through at 1 defense on the bandit. So he's a little bit weaker towards taking arrows to the knee, so maybe that's exactly what I need to do next. Okay, so for now I got into my second action here for Wilhelm, and what I'm going to do is something that I think works out really well based on how poorly I just rolled. This is my backup plan. It's going to be pummel. This one says attack 2, but I get an extra die right off of it if the enemy has no damage on it. So we're back with the same situation we had before. We have 2 strength going in, 2 defense for this particular bandit against a melee attack, but we have 2 dice. And hopefully the omen here of these 2 will not show up when I actually roll, because that would be horrible. Let's see how we do. And I'd love to see 1s. Let's see some 1s. We get some exploding dice and take this individual out. No. Okay, so we did get a miss here and another. Oh, that is absolutely brutal. These guys are no joke. And unfortunately, that time, there was nothing I could do reaction-wise across both of my heroes' cards, because I've actually used quite a bit of them at this point, and none of the reactions apply in a way that would give me any kind of benefit. So that is going to wrap up both of my heroes at this point, but now the bandits are coming back at us. I've gone ahead and removed the enemy action cards for the crossbowman, as we don't need them anymore in the enemy card as well. We draw the top card off of the bandit deck, and we got this one right here. The very top, range 0 is the first one, and we're engaged right now. I should say this enemy's engaging us, and so because of that, at range 0, we're going to do attack 2. So its focus is automatically based on the beginning of its turn, which pairs up with the special rule for this as to whether or not it goes after the innkeeper. At the very beginning of its turn, if it's in range of the innkeeper, then it's going to roll the die. But in this case, it's engaged with me, and it's absolutely going to be attacking me. Now, in a situation where my character was, say, over here, and it wasn't doing this top one from the very beginning, it would actually be potentially moving and attacking. So at that point, this one could potentially move to the innkeeper or move to me. So before it does anything at the beginning of its turn, it would go ahead and roll a die. And if it happened to land a 1 or a 2, in this case, it rolled a 6, but again, this is just hypothetical. If I rolled a 1, then it would actually turn and come over here and target this innkeeper based on this attack right here, and then go ahead and try to hit it for an attack 2 value from this spot right here. But that's not happening. This enemy in this case is going after Wilhelm, who has absolutely no defense whatsoever. It's going to be going after us with, let's take a look at its card, 2 dice, and it's got 1 strength going into it. So the bandit's going to go ahead and make its roll. Let's see how it does. It's looking for anything 2 or less is going to be a hit. and it got a 5 and a 2, so it actually did land a successful hit. Now, normally that would go straight through to my character, but I have one card left for Wilhelm, and I held on to this. This is a bump up in shield, so as a reaction on the enemy turn, it says play on yourself when counting defense. I don't have any defense, but now I've just gained an additional one, which allows me to negate this hit that just came through, so I take no damage. My apologies, that is a lie. I take a damage because this enemy has a strength of 1, and that adds into the equation from the very beginning on top of the dice that it rolled, just like for me. But 1 damage from the strength, 1 damage from the die. My defense blocked 1. 1 gets through, so poor Will is going to be dropping from 6 down to 5. Now this bandit way over here following the exact same card procedure as the previous bandit, not in range 0 of anything. And in terms of +1, this is absolutely the category we're going to fall into. Now how this works in terms of a breakdown is the top section of this, before the arrow, says move 1 and attack 2. You have to be able to resolve the entirety of what is inside that top portion in order to actually do it. So I have to be able to move 1 and attack 2 to do this, and if I can't, then I move to the bottom portion, which says just to move 2. So that's all I'm doing, so I'll have myself move this individual from here straight out the door towards a target. Now it's worth mentioning, I didn't roll the die for this because I'm so far away. I'm essentially just trying to get this bandit close enough to where it can potentially come after either one of my characters that are closest to it. But once it starts getting within range from the beginning of its turn, I absolutely need to roll the die to determine the target. And we are now headed into round number 2. Both of our characters are going to replenish up to 5 cards, and Wilhelm has no cards, so he's drawing 5 cards, whereas we have 2 down here for Elena, so she's going to draw 3. And she ended up with crowd fighting, no barriers, and years of practice. And on the other hand, Wilhelm got protecting the group, precise blow, flurry of blows, quick blows, and divided attention. Elena's going to start things off for us with the highest perception, and she is within 2, meaning she could do her ranged attack from where she is. She's going to go ahead with years of practice, and making this ranged attack, she only has to deal with 1 defense off of the bandit, which is good news. And it's an attack 2, and after that we can move or do a parting leap of 1. So first we'll do the attack here. Now I have nothing else reaction-wise I want to add into the equation right at the moment, so we're going to go ahead with the sling here. Adding this into the equation brings the 2 dice with it, and we have no modification to the to hit. And of course we're going to roll right now, trying to get 2 or 1 on the dice will result in some hits, and we have for our agility stat a 1 going into this. So let's see how things go. 2 dice, we're hoping for good things. I want to see some exploding dice, and we got 1. We actually got a miss, or this is not a miss, but again a die that doesn't provide any hit, but this one explodes, giving a hit, and we get an additional die every time we get one of these criticals. So we're going to roll again. Here's hoping we get another 1. Do we get lucky? No. That's going to resolve the attack, so 1 damage getting through because we had 2 hits, 1 off the agility stat we had, plus 1 off the die, and that's going to be a total of 2, and defending 1 from range and 1 getting through, so 1 damage on the bandit. There is still 4 health left on that individual, so lots to do. We're going to probably have to lean on Wilhelm to be able to pull off some stuff here. Now for her, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead right now and actually do first aid as my second action here. We're going to heal 2. And as I'm healing up to my maximum here, which is just 1 in order to get to 7, I do remember that I didn't take advantage of any moves, so I will do that right now. And the move I'm referring to comes off of the attack I did prior, the move that was right after it for 1. So we're going to go ahead and just move 1 position, no gameplay impact, but essentially I'm trying to get up close enough to be able to shoot at this individual and then deal with the other bandit as it gets closer. Now Wilhelm's going to begin his turn by going ahead with an attack 3. He's in the same space engaged with an enemy right now, which is perfect timing. So that means 3s, 2s, and 1s are going to be hits, which is pretty solid overall. And on top of that, I'm going to also add Mighty into the equation. This card right here is going to add this effect in, which is going to go onto the character, permanently reducing all of its defenses across the board, magic, range, and melee by 1. So we place an armor destruction token on the 1 hit side. If it happens to get up to 2, you flip it over. At maximum, it can be 2 on any 1 enemy. So at this point in time, that's going to be 1 across the board removed from all defense, which means it only has 1 defense for melee, which is great. Now going into this strength-wise, I've got 2 already. I've got a die here that's rolling, and I'm going to roll right now. 3, 2, 1 is going to be a hit. So here's hoping for good things. No. However, even with the poor roll here, the strength of 2 minus the 1 defense, thanks to me destroying a little bit of the armor, allows for 1 to get through. But it's certainly still not enough, as we need 5 hits to take this thing down. So we got another action to do with Wilhelm. Let's go ahead and do Flurry of Blows. We'll do back-to-back attacks, which should be nice. So we'll go ahead and place that down here. We're going to grab a die. Again, we're rolling a single die. We've got 2 strength going into the equation, and we get the benefit of this destructed armor, which is going to constantly keep helping us as we go through here. Let's see. 2 or 1 is what we want to see. Oh, nice. We finally got a critical. That's awesome. Let's keep it going. Let's see one more. Oh, there we go. Now the magic's starting, and we're going to see, hopefully... Oh, that's so good. Okay, so we get 2 hits off of this, plus the 2 from the strength stat. That's going to be a total of 4, minus 1 defense, thanks to destruction of armor, bringing its defense from 2 down to 1. So that is 3 hits getting through, and 3 on top of the 2 we already have is 5. That bandit has been killed, and critically killed, if I might add. That was absolutely awesome. We've cleared 2 of the enemies out of this point, and now the final bandit is going to activate. The card off the top of the deck is a 0 range 3 attack. It has an area of effect icon at the very end of it, but nobody is within 0 range, so we just ignore this for now. Again, area of effect would be exactly what you expect. It's going to affect everybody inside of a given area, but it's definitely in the 1+ range bucket. Now, it cannot move currently 1 and then attack 2, as there is nobody 1 space away from this bandit, so it's then going to immediately move to the second thing on the card, which is to move 2. Now again, as it tries from the very beginning of its turn to be able to move down the hallway towards a target, move 2 is not going to change the outcome of where it's headed at this point. So it'll simply just move ahead 2 spaces. We don't have to make the roll as to who it's going to be targeting. And I'm certainly going to be doing everything in my power to stop it from being able to get into that space with the innkeeper. So now we are done round number 2. We can move the round marker to the 3rd round. And now we'll draw up our cards for each of our heroes. We're going to have Wilhelm grabbing 3 cards and Elena grabbing 2. And the first 3 cards are the ones just drawn up. The other 2 we already had in hand. So we got Flurry of Blows, protecting the group, and Precise Blow we already had, protecting the group and Precise Blow. For Elena, we picked up Relocation as well as Lurk, and we already had No Barriers, First Aid, and Crowd Fighting. She's going to start things off with the card Relocation. This is going to allow her to move or do a parting leap of 1 and then attack 1. So she's going to simply move forward 1 position, and her agility stat is 1 by default. She's going to be going ahead and rolling 2 dice based on her using her sling here. So she's got 2 dice going in. The attack is only 1 though, so she's got to get crits on this, making it very, very tough. But what she's going to do to help it out is use a reaction card in just a moment after rolling the dice. Let's see what we get on the dice. Hopefully we get some criticals. We'll see how it goes. Also, this wound should be out of here as we killed off that individual quite earlier on. And we got ourselves a critical and a 3, so that's perfect. That was really risky. The attack 1 is very low odds of that happening. We got a critical, so we get to roll once again. Come on, no. So we do get 1 hit off of this. We have 1 hit for a stat for agility, which is 2. Now the defense from range for the bandit, for that bandit is 1, which means 1 damage is going through. But I'm going to go ahead right now and do what I did earlier by spending right now during this attack. After the roll, I'm going to spend morale in order to boost my agility up by 1, and then immediately use this reaction portion here to be able to regain the morale back so it does not negatively affect me right now. Because otherwise, if I don't do that, the negative effect washes out the benefit I get from using morale in the first place during this moment. So in essence, now we get to place more damage. So 1 damage coming from the critical, 1 from the agility stat I always have, and 1 from the morale boost that I did. So it's a total of 3 minus the 1 range defense the bandit has is 2 damage getting through. So we got 2 out of 5 on this one. Now I'm going to do something strategic here and use what's called a basic action. Now how I described this in part number 1, which I did put in the pinned comment and the FYI section, was that you can go ahead instead of using any card for its actual written use and go ahead and take 1 of 4 different options you have as basic actions. But if you choose one of those basic actions, like taking a move 1 or an attack 1, for instance, as example, you still have to discard an action card from your hand. So I'm going to go ahead and do a move 1, and that's literally just going to be me discarding 1 of my cards. I'm going to discard the Lurk card from my hand, which is this one right here, in order to just do move 1, moving it straight into the same space as the enemy. I'm doing this strategically because I have plans for Wilhelm. And that's going to end off her turn. The perception of the bandit as well as Wilhelm is the same as we know. So I'm going to choose Wilhelm to go first. And we're going to go ahead and get some movement going and get into that space. So let's try and find something that does something decent. I think we need to get 2 movement here to get over there. So that's going to be part of the fun here. And I don't have a ton of movement. All right, so here's my plan. I'm going to go ahead and discard this card, Fury of Blows, in order to do one basic movement. So that's going to have me move from where I'm currently at. I'm going to decide to move this way. Now for my second action, I'm going to choose to do Protecting the Group, move or Parting Leap 1, and then an attack 2. So that'll get me to the same space as my other hero and the bandit. Now with that attack 2, it's decent, but I am going up against a character with high defense for melee, so I really want to up the ante of trying to get as many hits as possible. So what I've done strategically is got Elena into the same space so I can use this reaction from Wilhelm in order to bump up how many dice I'm going to be able to roll because she's in my space. So I'm going to get +2 dice on top of what I already have. So I've got 2 strength already going into this from the sword itself. I'm getting 1 die from the sword, 2 dice from the reaction of having an ally inside my same space. So that gives me increased odds, and this is an attack 2. So 2s and 1s are going to be hits. Here's hoping for some good things to happen because right now I've got enough to deal with the defense. So everything on the dice will go through. Let's see if we can get what we want. We got a crazy roll. Every single one of actually not every single one of those, but 2 of those have landed, giving me 2 more dice. We just need 1 more hit from one of these critical rolls. So we missed on that one. Cross your fingers. We might be able to pull it off with this final one, and we still don't. That was super close to being a very satisfying kill, but we are just shy. The bandits holding on for dear life at this point, all sliced up. So we got 2 hits off the dice. We have 2 strength, so that's 4. We minus off the 2 defense from melee for the bandit, and that's only 2 damage getting through. So it's up to 4, and it's still ticking. All right, let's go ahead and clear out all these cards and dice. Well, it's time for the bandit to go. Let's go ahead and draw the card. The last one of the 3 in his deck is going to have to reshuffle this after we resolve it. So we got a card in hand here, and this one states attack 3 if at range 0. Now, based on the special rule, it's in the same space with other enemies, so it's going to be attacking the other enemies and not be targeting the innkeeper in this case, because it's going to actually activate on the very top one, which is attack 3, so only if the innkeeper was in the same space would we roll the die to see whether it's going to actually do a melee attack against the innkeeper. In this case, it's going to stay exactly where it is and attack our heroes, but it has to pick which one. It goes after the one with the weakest melee defense, but both of them don't have any, at least in terms of a typical stat, because we don't have any really good equipment on the armor side right now. So it next goes after whoever went first in the order determination, which is going to be Elena. Now, before this enemy does anything, I'm going to use a reaction card from Elena. This is going to be kind of a shot in the dark here. I highly doubt this is going to do anything, but at least it'll show you how unarmed combat actually works. So essentially what you do is, I'm going to play this reaction card right now because I know she's the target of this attack. And this one states, as you can see right on it, at the very bottom it says, attack 1 or attack 2 if using a melee weapon as a free action. But here's the thing, I don't have that bottom portion for her, but I can absolutely do this. And this is going to trigger using an unarmed, well, essentially I don't have a weapon that's melee, so I'm just using my fists to throw at this individual. Now when I do this, what you're going to do is you're going to add your strength into the equation, but you're going to have it. So the strength I have is only currently sitting at 1, so if I have it, then you have to round down, which ends up making it 0, so I get nothing from strength. I just get to roll the attack die. So I'm simply just showing this to you because if you have a character later on that happens to have a higher strength value, your unarmed can actually do some damage if you can have the result rounding down and still keep it at a whole number that's actually decent, 1 or above. You can actually do something with it. Right now with her, not so great, but I'll just do this for the fun of it. So reaction here, attack 1, you get a single die when you're doing an unarmed attack, and we'll go ahead. We have no strength to add into this equation, and this thing already has a defense of 2. So really I'd have to get some crazy critical rolls to even get through this individual with this reaction, but I'm doing it just for fun. And no, that definitely did not work out. Now, hypothetically, if Wilhelm was the one that was being targeted right now and I used that reaction card from him, which is, again, a hypothetical situation, he would actually take his strength value of 2 and he'd divide it in half, which would be 1. So he would actually have a whole number and not need to round down at all. So he'd have 1 going in plus whatever he gets off the die. So he'd have a little bit better of a chance than what we saw from Elena. All right, as we know, the bandits throw 2 dice when they attack, as it says on their enemy card. Also has 1 strength in the equation already, so let's see what gets added into this. And it's an attack 3, so let's see how many hits come across. That's not good. We're going to miss but a critical is not something I really want to see, and unfortunately I don't have the card. I wish I did now. I did used to have a reaction card, and again, I can't use another one right now because I've already used one during this action, which is an enemy action, but I do have a bottom reaction card in her deck that basically says, I believe you can ignore 1 results, which is pretty cool. I just don't have it right now, unfortunately. We're going to roll for this critical, and it's a 2. Ugh. So that didn't really work out so well. 1 strength, 1 critical, 1, 2. That is going to be 3 across the board. I have no defense, so I'm taking 3 hits. So as you can see, the bandits really don't mess around when they start hitting you. If you give them those opportunities, they are going to pummel you. So I'm dropping myself from 7 down to 4. That's going to do it for round number 3. We're going to move the round marker to round 4. We're going to clean up the mess we got going on here with the dice and cards, and also we've used all of the bandits cards at this point, so we're going to replenish the deck by reshuffling it. Into round number 4 we go, and Elena's going to draw up to 4 cards to give her 5 total, and Wilhelm's going to draw 3 to bring himself to 5. All right, the top 3 cards are the new ones for Wilhelm. He got Draw Attention, he got Pummel, he got Assault, and the ones he already had were Precise Blow and Precise Blow. Now over here for Elena, she's got 4 new cards on the top here: Spot Ambush, Cover, Sense of Danger, Lurk, and the one she already had, No Barriers. All right, Elena's going to use some strategy here. Now, we are currently overwhelming the individual in this space because we have more heroes than we have enemies in here. So Elena, as she goes to her turn, really wants to get out of here so she can use her ranged attacks against this individual because, again, the defense of this individual is low on the ranged attacks. So we're going to go ahead and do a Parting Leap. Normally, when you do a Parting Leap out of a space with an enemy, the enemy gets a chance to attack you. But if you outnumber that enemy, then you just get to get out of that space without being attacked, which is great. So we're going to go ahead with No Barriers. This is a move or Parting Leap of 2, and we get to ignore the effects of difficult terrain, although it won't matter. We're going to move ourselves from where we're at inside the same space as the innkeeper just to provide some backup for fun. At this point, because I'm being so aggressive with taking down the crossbowman and also protecting the innkeeper, I'm going to make sure this innkeeper doesn't even get a scratch based on how I'm playing. So we're going to go ahead now and do an attack. Now, this is where things get fun. I've got a card here that says actually would add a die into an attack too if it was of a different creature, and I'm not sure what that icon is, but it's definitely not a human, so that's not going to help me right now. Moving on through. Actually, it's kind of funny. I don't really have... Oh, actually, no, I can still use this one, I believe. I just get an additional die if it's versus that type of creature. So I'm going to use this card called Cover. You'll see what I mean in a second here. I'll show you. As the top section here says that you get an attack too, but you get an additional die if you're going after that particular icon. I'll check what it is. There are 4 different types of enemy icons in the game. Humanoids is the one you've seen with the skull. The monsters is the one you just saw. There's also shapeshifters and demonic as well. All right, as she does, she's going to use her sling to make this ranged attack from 2 away, which she absolutely can do. She's got 2 dice going into this, and we're looking for 2 or 1 to be successful. She's got the current agility at 1, so let's go ahead and make the roll and see how we do. Here's hoping, and again, the defense value is only a 1. We got ourselves a 5 and a critical. Love these criticals. I love the exploding dice in any game. It's always a nice, fun aspect to the combat, and that's a miss. So we got 1 here. We got 1 over there. We have 1 defense, so 1 gets through. That is all we needed to take down the final bandit. With the bandit now down inside of round number 4, there's not much reason to go to round 5 unless, of course, you have some type of benefits that could come through your cards as you go into the next round, because we have to survive 5 rounds, have the innkeeper still standing, and we're certainly going to be able to pull that off. Now, looking at the cards at the top of both of my decks, there's nothing healing-wise that's going to help me because those cards I've already had through my hand and they're in the discard pile, so there's no reason to play all the way to the 5th round. We're going to end it right here. That's going to be a victory in Quest 2 in... You hear a commotion in the yard over the clash of weapons, and a group of men-at-arms storm through the door and level their weapons at the bandits. As the bandits drop their weapons and the men-at-arms advance, the innkeeper limps out from behind the bar, clutching a mangled arm with one hand. Many thanks for your help. I'd be dead at the hands of those brigands weren't for you. I'm in your debt. Please take this for risking your life. He hands you a small bottle of oily liquid as the soldiers begin arresting the bandits. Smear some of this on your blade. 'Twill burn and fester something fierce. Each hero at this point gains 1 experience and for the first time 1 morale. So each character is taking their morale up on the track, which is great news, allowing us to get some options on spending it in the future without having to go into the negative side of morale. And our experience is jumping up by 1, so we have 2 experience on both characters. As part of the quest rewards, we gain humanoid grease, and we can choose whether it's the ranged version or the melee version. This is going to last for an entire quest, as it denotes by this icon here. The one underneath is for humanoids, which means it's going to affect them, and it's going to allow for poison, which is the main effect. So again, you get to choose between which one you want it to be on weapon-wise. And the group also gains some yarn. You'll take this token to denote this. Now, as Wilhelm has an advantage being that he has 2 strength going into any attacks using a melee weapon, I'm going to actually put this humanoid grease on my ranged character so that she gets a little bit of an advantage to using her sling. So we're going to go ahead and place this into this slot here. You'll see it matches the icon, which can be any of these 3, and of course it attaches itself to the sling. We now head back to the world map, and the hunter's marker is sitting on M06. It tells us as part of the conclusion for quest number 2 to now find J001 and J002 and place them both on this map location. So a first task and a second task appear at M06. And as we head into the finale for the Hunters 1492, we're going to be able to choose between these 2 cards. I'll give you an opportunity to read the front side and back side of both of these. Now, the iconography shown here might be new to you. These icons are for ducats. There's one here, gaining 1 and gaining 3 on this option. And up here, a leather comes with that ducat. As you go further into the campaign, you're going to have tasks that'll show up, and you'll choose which one to do and carry on with that path. But here inside the tutorial in the first 3 quests, these tasks are actually recommended to both be done. However, you can choose which order that you do them in, and I'm going to throw that back to you guys in the community tab on the YouTube channel in a poll. I'll let you guys vote as to which one we should do first and which we should do second. And that, my friends, wraps up part number 2 of the Hunters AD 1492. Be sure to head to the post, the community post section of my YouTube channel, where I'll have a poll there so you can decide which of these tasks we go after first, and then we'll resolve the next one. And then after that, we'll head into the final quest together, which will wrap up the entirety of the How to Play guide, which you can see here on the table. You'll have seen everything in visual form, and then you can dive into the campaign and go on your way and explore the world and what it has to offer you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Can't wait to hear the feedback. And as always, keep on rolling solo.